So, our expansion series continues. We talked of a lot of these things in hints and pieces, and obviously we covered the key ingredients and the key principles, but we are going to delve deeper into each of those aspects, but not very deep. That will be covered by your course materials that will give with it, but at least getting the basic essence and at least having your cognizance of the fact of what is our perspective. So, we start with the second most important thing after market research. What? Market validation, which is part of the market research onto that part. So, we are again looking at that part. How are we doing it? Surveys which we covered before. Test product concepts. How do you test product concepts? You either sit with a very bright person and give a hypothetical talk about it and tell him, or you build a quick prototype, or you build a quick theme, or you take a product and say, if this had XYZ, you have to innovate on that part. But this is a very important stage, because people often can't visualize, but when they see something on the concepts and all, they are able to associate with it and give you much far more better decision, and that gives better validation. It is not research anymore, you are actually trying to validate if your research is showing the right method. Analyze and benchmark. What do you benchmark against? What if you do not have a benchmark? You benchmark against people, you benchmark against standards or your objective that I want people to feel XYZ, I want people to achieve XYZ. That is your benchmark, or your competitors' product is your benchmark, either of them, but you still need to analyze and benchmark. Competitors is secondary, you yourself could be your own competitor, because you are competing with the idea that whatever I have thought as a great salvation for humankind, is it achievable? That test is often more important than testing with the computer, because if you are only benchmarking with the computers, I think you are losing out. You are losing out on the fact that they can go to hell, the need they are fulfilling, can I fulfill it better? I can make it completely different way. Here, if you do it only this way, you are only an efficiency increaser. You are not an innovator, you are not a disruptor, which is okay to be, but be very clear and know that that is what you are doing. That clarity of thought. Remember that scamper, that you have to look at that part. Review sales data and market trends. I cannot say how important this is. Finally, money matters. This will give you an indication that are you talking in a particular way, or you are just looking at it this way. Maybe you are hearing a friend dal pound, but that came out so large that we are retaking some part of it. I was actually scared they are coming to get me, but that is not the case. So, we will carry on from the analyze and benchmark computer. So, what I was saying is analyzing and benchmarking a computer is important, but also what is important is to benchmark your own aspirations, because that is the most important thing. You have set out to achieve certain goals. When you are analyzing, you are seeing whether you are achieving that goal. Self goals are most important. I have a detachment towards over analyzing with my competition as the first step. I always do it as a second step, but the first step should be, am I living up to my own expectations? I am the most important person, because if my heart and my mind and my excitement is not there, I am just a copycat, somewhere I will get demotivated, and that is what I do not want to do. So, keep that thing alive. Your own plans, are you achieving it? That is what your analysis says is also very important. So, keep to it and have the confidence of saying that is more important. Benchmarking computer is important. What if you do not have a computer? You can be in a situation, I would love that, when you do not have competitors. You may do with aligned competitors, you may do with it. Like if you are coming up with let us say a show for single act theatres, because you want to revive it and your theatre is the one that you are doing, you may benchmark with even Netflix. What is a normal duration of film people watch at a stretch? Should my acts be like that? You may draw inspiration. So, benchmarking computers does not mean like to like, it is what you think are alike that you can benchmark on. So, there are many parts. It is a very nuanced thing, it is very easy to say it. Do not look for direct computers always, sometimes looking at indirect computers also helps. Like you create a mail system for a corporate, very secure and all. Trust me, if it is very non-culture code oriented, you will get a feedback saying that, but Gmail itna आसान है, ये इतना complicated क्यों है? You may have to make the user interface much simple with what they are used to, and still have the complications that will become a product feature that you need. These two I cannot say how important they are. You have to review sales data of your environment and yourselves on a periodic basis. Now, see the change. I have already started going to present continuous, because these are continuous things. You start off by looking at the environmental sales data, but you have to review sales data every time for your own company, and this step Market validation. You always should be scared that the market doesn't like you. And you have to validate every time. Not out of fear, not with a heartbeat, but with the excitement. What is the market not liking? What can I do to completely change their opinion about me? That balance is very important. Remember audacity and humility? This is the humility part of it. Should lead you to better audacity. Just keep yourself prone so that you get opportunities for learning, opportunities for being very unique. These two and nothing better. All this you can do, but if these are not reflecting here, something's wrong. You're not doing it good enough. That's what you have to keep in mind. Test your assumptions. It could be as simple as asking your colleague, what do you think if we do this? It should start there, but you should not stop there. Not an echo chamber. You should go to the market, validate your assumptions. Talk to your user, someone user and say, or the user of your computer and say, if I did this, would it be helpful to you? He says yes. Why? Challenge him. Don't be happy with the answer. Why will it be helpful? How will it gain you? He will say, you only asked me, I gave you an answer. No, I want to go into depth. Chalo, let's have a tea. But tell me, what is it that you will really gain? That depth, that's what I mean by assumption testing. Not just a yes, no, very good, maybe. That's impartial. That's absolutely partial. They just want to get rid of it. It's when you go into the devil is in the detail, that's when the thing comes. And you remember that on that part. Types of data, there are many more types. I've just taken some of them part. Your customer data, your competitive data, market trends. This obviously is most important. I always look at this most. This is becoming a big thing. This is where your perseverance and your sincerity shines. Most people are too lazy to do this normally. This is your competitive advantage. It's so simple. It's like cooking food. Most people end up not saving so much because they order food. If you cook food, that's a great hack for you to start a saving for a great plan. Just like that, doing this because others are not doing it, there's no rocket science in it. But just doing it gives you that discipline and makes you that much more competitive and much more enterprising. Sometimes the simple things really stand out. Focusing on these two are very important. These are very fancy. You can do a lot of intellectual stimulating discussion on these three things. I'm not saying to be undermined, but often these things are not what people watch on. Getting to the detail, which region, which zone, what reputations, drilling down. It doesn't stop here. Don't stop at the top line only. Look at the breaks of the top line. Think of scenarios. What if this vendor starts going on to a computer? What happens? The if then else scenario. All those things lead from here. So make sure that you have very good respect for the data. I'm not saying that analysis is coming next, but I'm saying why that data is important is because you need to do all those things. I'll talk a bit here and there, not in a sequential way, because as thoughts come, I'll keep on doing it, but mainly onto that part. This is your types of analysis. Often, in our fancy ways of being Excel driven, we undermine these things a lot. But remember, Excel is not the most excellent thing always. It can have issues. It can have other aspects which can be there. So descriptive analysis is very important. I can tell you some of the largest companies in the world often start off with product thinking of saying that write a news report on the achievements of a product in the future. They don't even specify how many years ahead, because the plan is there that I can achieve this in 3 years or 5 years, will show in what future they saw. And then they start backtracking and saying, so much sales has been achieved, so many people are there, so many things have been improved, it's this thing, this customer spoke that. That is your dream. This analysis is also applicable, descriptive analysis is also applicable when you are looking at data. That something is fishy there, that's good enough. I am not able to pinpoint, I have to do that part. From this part, when I talk to this person, this is what he said. Not everything is enumerable and quantitative. There is a value for qualitative. And as the world becomes using quantitative things as a tool, this game theoretically becomes a huge part of your arsenal. Because everyone is doing the Excel sheet analysis. Everyone has a rudimentary thing. They have templates, they have BI, they have all sorts of tools which will automatically do it for you. But just reading them is not differentiating you. This may differentiate you because no one is doing it. Segmentation. Focus depends so much on segmentation, I can't tell you. The more you segment, the more you can pinpoint focus, the more you get less confused. If the data comes mixed together of a business buyer and a normal buyer and a buyer from the south and a buyer from the north, you may often end up taking universal decisions which benefit no one. But when you do segmentation and you have a strategy for each segment, wonders start happening. You start looking at different aspects in a very different light, and that helps. It's part of trends, the next part. Things may change. Some other product may come, your product may become passé because it's gone there. Have you seen how much your favorite restaurants change their menu? Why do they change it? It's because of the trends. Something which was great 3 months back is no longer great. Something which is viral today and not on your menu makes you look non-posh. You have to keep on it. Look at the amount of coffee shops which have done crookie. They never thought of a crookie. They're all copying it from some viral sensation. But they know if they don't have it, they are going to be perceived as weakling. Some of them may say, no, we are ourselves. We will not do a crookie, but we do a bookie, which is even better. Now I'll give it in the shape of a book. They are thinking and taking a different path, but all of them are analyzing. All of them are watching the trends and responding to it. Trends and segmentation and all these aspects are triggers. They are stimuli. And the whole thing about life is how you respond to stimuli. You have to think of your business as a lively object. And with a lively object, everything needs to be responded to. These tell you what are the lively objects now, what are the stimuli. Without this analysis, you never get to know of your stimuli. You are living as a kubamanduk, happy with the choices you have made, not wanting to learn more. That's a sure way to die. Or not get out and stay there, not see the world, whatever. Last, very self-reflective. See, look at the words: strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. Weakness and threats, no one wants to look at. It's very difficult to admit weaknesses of yourself. All the more reason to analyze, because then you are actually acting like a third umpire for your own self. The umpire on the ground is your conscience. But often it misses out because it does kill confidence, right, to admit weakness. But the biggest strength comes from admitting weakness, and analysis makes you on that. Strengths and opportunities are more ego boosting things. Opportunities are stimuli. They are great, but they are still ego boosting in a way. I always look at the weaknesses and threats much more importantly. It gives me a neutral perspective of who I am. And often that is much more important than anything else. We'll get on to the next session or the next part of the session after this. Sink this in. All are very important and all. And I'll just do one thing. I'll just draw a typical SWOT analysis the way we do it in a classical way. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, right? This is called the left hand side, and strengths often tell you whether opportunities can be harbored or not. Weaknesses also tell you if opportunities can be there. If you are weak in a certain aspect, you cannot leverage on an opportunity. But if you look at it this way and you keep it in the same frame, the way you look at it also matters. And each of the strength can also have other analysis that you can do, which is there. Now, in this overall framework, the entire aspect of looking at the threats is the most important. This should be your first priority. And the more you can use your strengths to eliminate threats, the better, more balanced you are about your business. With that, let's move on to the next session. Thank you.